Captain Daniel Brooks stood on the bridge of the frigate Liberty, staring at the glowing symbols on the main display. They were new, strange, and moving fast. The alien fleet had appeared just hours ago at the farthest edge of human space. At first, no one knew what they were. They were large enough to be warships, but their shapes were nothing like any known design. Some looked like jagged shards of glass. Others glowed faintly, like drifting embers in the dark. The moment they appeared, Fleet Command ordered every nearby ship to stay on alert. Daniel's orders were clear. Shadow them, but do not fire unless attacked. He knew what that meant. They wanted to see if these strangers would cross the line. That invisible line was well known in human space. It was the border, and no one crossed it unless they were invited. History had taught the galaxy that. Daniel leaned forward in his chair. "Have they answered our hails yet?" he asked quietly. Lieutenant Sarah Monroe at the station shook her head. "No, sir. We've sent standard greetings in all major languages. We've tried open frequencies and direct bursts. Nothing." "They can hear us," Daniel said. "They're choosing not to respond." He felt a small chill run through him. Silence was sometimes worse than threats. A hostile fleet would at least make demands or send warnings. Silence meant one thing. They didn't care what humans had to say. Liberty kept its distance, shadowing the alien fleet. The trade hub of Meridian Station lay directly ahead of their course. Thousands of civilians lived there. Merchant ships came and went every hour. It wasn't just a military target. It was a beating heart of human trade in this sector. "They're holding formation," Monroe reported. "No change in speed. No deviation from course." Daniel glanced. At the tactical display, the alien ships were in a tight spearhead formation, the kind a Navy used when pushing through enemy space. His gut told him this was no exploration mission. "Any sign of weapons?" he asked. Lieutenant Jason Cole at Tactical answered. "Hard to say, sir. Their hulls are strange. They might have energy weapons hidden. I'm detecting faint power surges, but I can't identify the source." Daniel thought about the unspoken rule of human space. Everyone had heard the stories. Decades ago, another fleet had crossed the border without permission. They had been destroyed in less than an hour. No one knew exactly how, but the few fragments of wreckage that remained told the truth. Someone had made sure they never came back. "Message from Fleet Command," Monroe said. "We are to maintain visual and electronic surveillance. No engagement unless they fire first." Daniel nodded. That was the safe order, but he could feel the tension building. The aliens were ignoring every protocol. In space, ignoring hails was like walking into someone's home without knocking. Hours passed, and the stars drifted slowly past. The alien fleet showed no sign of slowing down. Daniel kept his eyes on the screen. His crew worked quietly, the air on the bridge heavy. "With unease," Captain Cole said suddenly. "One of the alien ships is scanning us. I'm reading active pulses on our hull. They know we're here." Daniel straightened in his chair. "Let them look. They'll see we're armed." Cole looked up from his display. "What if they don't care?" Daniel didn't answer. He didn't like the direction of that thought. A soft chime came from Monroe's station. "Sir, I'm picking up encrypted bursts between the alien ships. Can't break the code." "They're talking to each other," Daniel said. "They're planning something." Outside the viewport, the alien ships were small glimmers in the black, their strange shapes catching the distant light of the sun. They looked almost calm, drifting forward, but Daniel knew better. Predators often looked calm before they struck. "Distance to Meridian Station?" Daniel asked. "For hours at their current speed," Monroe replied. Daniel drummed his fingers. Against the arm of his chair, he thought about the families living on the station, about the unarmed freighters parked at its docks. If the aliens meant harm, for hours was nothing. Another hour passed, The crew spoke only when necessary. The tension was a quiet, heavy thing, pressing down on them all. Then the first real sign came. Captain Cole said, his voice tight. Multiple energy spikes in the alien fleet. They're powering up. Something. Daniel stood. Weapons, possibly, or shields. Hard to tell. Daniel looked at the clock. Fleet Command would have to make a decision soon. He knew what his recommendation would be. Send another hail, Daniel ordered. Last one. Make it clear they are approaching a civilian population center and that they are in violation of border protocols. Monroe nodded and sent the message. They waited. No answer came. Daniel exhaled slowly. All right, keep tracking. We'll hold position for now. But if they make one hostile move... He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone on the bridge already knew what would happen next. The alien fleet kept moving. Hours passed, and the Liberty stayed close behind, always just far enough to avoid provoking a direct reaction. Captain Daniel Brooks sat in his chair, his eyes fixed on the display. The line was only 2 hours away now. The invisible border of human space. Cross it without permission, and you challenged the one rule that kept the peace in the galaxy. Humans had a reputation. It was not for being the most advanced or the most powerful, but for being the most relentless when threatened. Long ago, there had been the Eurasian War. The Eurasians were stronger, faster, and had fleets 3 times the size of humanity's. But they had crossed the line. They had sent their warships into human colonies without asking. What followed was quick and brutal. Human fleets had hit them from every direction, cutting off their supply lines, targeting their command ships, and striking deep into their territory. The Eurasians had surrendered within 6 months, something no one believed possible after that. The galaxy had learned the unspoken rule: never enter human space uninvited. Not because humans wanted isolation, but because they defended what was theirs with everything they had. Most species respected this. They traded, they visited with permission, and they followed the protocols. The ones who didn't were gone. Daniel knew the newcomers must have heard these stories. Every species near human space had. So why were they ignoring every warning? Were they arrogant, desperate, or simply looking for a fight? Lieutenant Sarah Monroe broke the silence. No response again, Captain. We've repeated the warning message 3 times. Keep trying, Daniel said. Every channel, every frequency. Jason Cole looked over from tactical. Captain, this feels wrong. No one just drifts into human territory without knowing the risk. Either they're fools or they think we won't act. They'll find out soon enough, Daniel said quietly. The crew worked with quiet focus. Every few minutes, the alien ships exchanged bursts of encrypted data. Daniel imagined their captains watching human ships on their scanners, maybe even laughing at the tiny frigate tailing them. But numbers didn't tell the whole story. A frigate could call for help, and help would come fast. Daniel's mind wandered back to the old stories his father used to tell. His father had been a Marine. During the Eurasian War, he'd told Daniel about the look in the enemy's eyes when they realized they had made a mistake. How they had thought humans were slow to anger. How they had thought wrong. Captain, Monroe said suddenly, Fleet Command reports additional units on standby. 4 destroyers and 2 cruisers are moving into position behind the line. Are to continue shadowing until the fleet is in range. Understood, Daniel replied. That meant Command was preparing for a fight, but still holding back in case the aliens turned away. Jason Cole checked his sensors again. Still no signs of deceleration. They're committed to this course. The 2 hours became 1. The stars seemed to hang still, the only movement coming from the slow drift of the alien formation ahead. The bridge crew spoke less and less. The quiet was heavy. When the alien fleet was 30 minutes from the line, Daniel gave another order. "Monroe, send one last clear message. Tell them exactly what's waiting if they cross." Monroe nodded and tapped the console. Her voice went out in simple, plain words, translated into a dozen languages. She told them about the defense platforms hidden along the border, the missile networks, the fleet waiting for them. She told them about the history. She ended with, "Do not cross this border. Turn around now." The alien ships kept moving. "They're ignoring it," Monroe said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were tight. Daniel sat back and folded his hands. "Then they've made their choice." "Jason." Cole looked at him. "You think they're here for Meridian Station?" Daniel didn't answer right away. They've picked the wrong target. Meridian is deep inside the line. They'll have to get through more than just us. As the minutes slipped away, Daniel thought about the people on the station. Merchants haggling over prices. Families walking through the big glass corridors, watching ships come and go. None of them knew how close danger was. The borderline was now 10 minutes away. Fleet Command sent a short message to all human ships in range. "Stand by to engage if ordered." Daniel's pulse quickened, but his face stayed calm. 5 minutes. The alien ships showed no sign of slowing down. Daniel could see them more clearly. On the screens now, strange curves and jagged angles, glowing faintly in the darkness. They were like nothing he had seen before. 3 minutes. Monroe glanced at him, waiting for a sign. He gave none. 2 minutes. The alien fleet stayed in formation, moving like a single living thing. 1 minute. Daniel leaned forward, eyes fixed. On the display, the line was crossed. Asterisk the moment the alien fleet crossed the border. Alarms began to sound on the Liberty's bridge. The red alert lights bathed the crew in a sharp glow. Captain Daniel Brooks didn't need the warning. He had been watching the moment unfold second by second. "Fleet Command confirms the crossing," Sarah Monroe said, her voice steady but tense. "Orders are to issue final warning and prepare for combat." Daniel nodded. "Send it. Make sure they understand this is their last chance." Monroe tapped the console and repeated the message in every known language. Her words were clear, short, and left no room for misunderstanding. The aliens did not reply. Jason Cole at Tactical studied the readings on his display. "They're powering up. I'm seeing high energy output across multiple ships. Could be weapons, could be shields." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Any targeting scans on us yet?" "Not yet, sir. But they're scanning ahead, toward Meridian Station." That was enough for Daniel to know what this meant. They were not here by accident. They were on a mission, and that mission was headed straight for human civilians. The Liberty kept its distance, holding formation as ordered, but Daniel knew the destroyers and cruisers behind the line were moving into place. Time was running short for the intruders. Captain Monroe said, "Command requests continuous updates on their formation and energy signatures. They want everything logged in case of engagement." "Understood," Daniel said. "Cole?" "Make sure we're recording every detail." Cole nodded. "Already doing it." The alien fleet shifted slightly, forming a tighter spearhead. It was a battle formation. Daniel had no doubt about that. The lead ship, larger than the others, glowed with a soft blue light from its forward section. Daniel didn't know what that meant, but he didn't like it. "Any idea on their armament yet?" Daniel asked. Cole shook his head. "Nothing solid. Their hulls block most scans. But whatever they have, they're ready to use it." Daniel looked out at the dark screen showing the alien shapes. They were beautiful in a strange way, their curves and angles catching starlight, their faint glows shifting like embers in the dark. But he knew beauty in space was often deadly. Fleet Command sent another message. This time it was short and clear. Engage if fired upon. Hold if not. Daniel's jaw tightened. He hated waiting for the other side to shoot first. But rules were rules, and the galaxy knew humans only fired in self-defense. That was part of the reputation that kept the peace. Hours turned to minutes as the fleets moved toward Meridian Station. The destroyers and cruisers were now only minutes away from intercept position. Daniel could feel the tension in the air, like a storm building. Captain Monroe said softly, "The station has gone to full alert. Civilian ships are evacuating." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. He could picture the Chaos freighters and shuttles rushing to leave. Station crews sealing off sections, parents gathering children. He knew the evacuation drills were practiced for exactly this reason. But drills were never the same as the real thing. The alien fleet sent out a signal. It wasn't in any known language. It was a harsh, pulsing tone that made some of the crew flinch. Daniel looked at Monroe. "Can we translate that?" She shook her head. "No, it's not a language I recognize. It might not be meant for us." Cole frowned at his display. "Captain, they just changed speed. They're accelerating." Daniel leaned forward. "Toward the station?" "Yes, sir." That was the moment Daniel knew they were seconds from a fight. "Command says to intercept if they pass the first defense ring," Monroe reported. Daniel gave a short nod. "Then, let's get ready. Cole, weapons on standby. Shields up." The Liberty's engines hummed as the ship moved into a new position, closing the gap slightly, but staying just outside what Daniel guessed was the aliens' engagement range. He could see the faint shimmer of the defense ring ahead, an invisible wall of platforms and mines hidden in the black. The alien fleet kept coming. No hesitation, no change in formation. "Final message sent," Monroe said. Still no response. Cole glanced at Daniel. "Sir, if they wanted peace, they'd have answered by now." Daniel didn't answer. He knew Cole was right. The alien fleet entered the defense ring. The sensors lit up with alerts. Automated targeting systems locked onto the intruders. Daniel's heart pounded. All it would take was one hostile move. Then it happened. A bright flash came from one of the alien ships. A beam of energy shot past the Liberty, missing by only a few hundred meters. Cole's voice was sharp. "They've fired." Daniel didn't hesitate. "Return fire. Target their lead ship." The Liberty's weapons came alive, hurling streams of fire toward the alien fleet. The waiting was over. The fight had begun. Asterisk. The first exchange of fire was fast and bright in the darkness of space. The Liberty's guns pounded the lead alien ship, sparks and debris scattering from its strange hull. The alien fleet answered with their own weapons, streams of glowing energy flashing between the two forces. Shields flared, alarms echoed through the bridge, and the crew worked quickly to keep the ship in the fight. But Captain Daniel Brooks knew something the aliens didn't. The Liberty wasn't alone. The defense ring they had just entered was not just a thin line of satellites. Hidden in the shadows of asteroids and small moons were weapons older than most of his crew. They were built during the Eurasian War and had been kept ready ever since. Their locations were a secret, even from many in the fleet. They slept, cold and silent, until the moment they were needed. That moment had come. Defense grid is activating, Jason Cole said from Tactical. His voice was calm, but carried a note of anticipation. On the main screen, Daniel saw flashes in the distance, faint bursts of light from hidden launch bays. A second later, hundreds of missiles appeared on the sensors, racing toward the alien ships from multiple directions. The aliens tried to react, shifting formation. But the attack came from every angle. "Keep pressure on their lead ship," Daniel ordered. "Make them focus on us while the grid does its work." The Liberty weaved and turned, firing in short, sharp bursts. The aliens hit back, their beams slicing close enough to rattle the hull. The crew stayed focused, moving with practiced precision. Every impact on the alien ships was another distraction. Another moment they couldn't use to deal with the hidden threat. Then the missiles struck. The first wave slammed into the alien fleet, tearing through shields and shattering hulls. One ship exploded in a white flash, its fragments spinning away into the black. Another ship broke apart slowly, its pieces glowing faintly before fading into the darkness. 2 confirmed kills, Cole reported. Multiple others damaged. The aliens responded with a coordinated volley, aiming at the nearest missile platforms they could detect. Some platforms were destroyed, but most kept firing. More hidden weapons joined the fight trail GANs buried. Inside asteroids, launching hypervelocity slugs that punched through alien armor like paper. "They're trying to scatter," Sarah Monroe said. "Breaking formation." Daniel watched as the once-tight spearhead began to split apart. Smaller ships darted in different directions, trying to escape the storm. But scattering only made them easier targets for the grid. Missiles chased them down, guided by invisible beams from distant control stations. 3 more down, Cole called out. "Their numbers are dropping fast." One alien ship made a desperate charge toward the Liberty, firing wildly. Daniel held his ground. "Hold steady. Target their engines." The Liberty's guns roared, striking the charging ship's rear section. The enemy vessel shuddered, its engines flaring and then going dark. It drifted helplessly, spinning slowly. The grid kept firing. Every minute, another alien ship fell. The darkness was filled with quick flashes of destruction, each one marking the end of another intruder. Daniel knew this fight was almost over, but he didn't relax yet. A cornered enemy could still be dangerous. Captain Monroe said. "Fleet Command reports all reinforcement ships are in position. They're moving in to finish the job." "Tell them to focus on the survivors trying to run," Daniel said. "The grid will handle the rest." Within minutes, the destroyers and cruisers swept in, their weapons adding to the chaos. The alien fleet had no chance. They were trapped between the human warships and the hidden platforms. One by one, they were destroyed. After 17 minutes of combat, silence began to return. Only one alien ship remained, drifting and powerless. The rest were gone, scattered into wreckage that floated slowly through the void. "Ceasefire," Daniel ordered. "Target the drifting ship. Disable any remaining weapons." Cole nodded and sent a short burst from the Liberty's guns. Small. Explosions rippled across the alien ship's surface, but it stayed intact. "Why spare them?" Cole asked quietly. Daniel kept his eyes on the screen, "So they can carry the message home." The bridge was quiet except for the low hum of the systems. The crew looked at the wreckage filling the screen. The battle had been short, but the outcome was clear. "Status of the grid?" Daniel asked. Standing down, Monroe replied. "All surviving platforms returning to standby mode." Daniel leaned back in his chair. The hidden deterrent had done its job perfectly. The aliens had never stood a chance once they crossed the line. And now, the one ship left alive would leave carrying proof of why no one entered human space uninvited. The drifting alien ship was all that remained. The battle was over, but the tension on the Liberty's bridge had not faded. The wreckage of the other ships floated in silent pieces, catching faint light from the distant sun. The defense grid's work was done, but Captain Daniel Brooks knew the next step mattered as much as the fight itself. "Damage report," Daniel said. Jason Cole checked his screen. "Minor shield damage, Hull intact. No casualties reported. Good, Daniel replied. He stood and walked toward the viewport. The alien ship ahead was motionless, its hull scorched and broken in several places. Power readings showed only faint energy left enough for life support, but little else. Sir, Sarah Monroe said. Fleet Command orders us to board the surviving vessel and secure anything of intelligence value. Daniel nodded. Prep a boarding team. Non-lethal weapons only. We're here to send a message, not to start a massacre. Within 30 minutes, the Liberty's boarding shuttle was ready. Sergeant Olivia Hart, a tall and calm Marine with years of experience, led the small squad. They wore armored suits with magnetic boots for moving in zero gravity. Daniel met them at the launch bay. Keep it quick, he told Hart. We don't know how stable that ship is. Yes, Captain, she said. Her tone was firm, her eyes focused. The shuttle detached from the Liberty and glided toward the alien vessel. The ship looked even stranger up close. Its surface was covered in strange flowing patterns, as if the hull had grown rather than been built. Some sections glowed faintly, others were blackened from missile strikes. Hart's team attached to the hull and cut their way through. The air inside was thin and cold. The corridors were narrow and curved, lit by a dim blue light. The Marines moved carefully, checking every corner. The only sounds were their breathing and the faint hum of their suit systems. They found the bridge, or what they assumed was the bridge, near the center of the ship. It was a round chamber with walls covered in symbols. Strange, fluid-like shapes moved slowly across glowing panels. 3 alien figures were there, their bodies tall and slender, their skin a pale gray. They did not move when the Marines entered. Hart approached slowly. We're not here to kill you, she said, her voice calm but firm. You are to leave human space immediately. One of the aliens tilted its head but said nothing. Its large, dark eyes reflected the blue light around them. Hart took a small datapad from her pack. The device contained a message from Fleet Command, translated into dozens of known languages. She placed it on the floor in front of the alien leader. Asterisk, this is for you, she said. Read it, understand it, then go home. The alien picked up the datapad with long, thin fingers. The glowing text scrawled across the screen, a calm but clear statement explaining the unspoken rule. It spoke of history, of past intrusions, and of what happened to those who ignored the border. It ended with one sentence. You entered, uninvited. This is what happens. The alien read in silence, then placed the device back on the floor. Still, it said nothing. Hart signaled her team. We're done here. The Marines retraced their path to the shuttle, leaving the alien ship as they had found it, damaged but alive. As they detached and returned to the Liberty, Hart sent a brief report to Daniel. Back on the bridge, Daniel listened to her words. Good work, Sergeant. Prepare to release the vessel. Cole looked surprised. We're just letting them go. Yes, Daniel said. A destroyed ship is just wreckage. A living ship is a warning. The Liberty sent a final transmission to the alien vessel. Leave human space now. Slowly, the alien ship's engines flickered to life. It turned away from Meridian Station and began moving toward the border. No weapons powered up, no signals. Where sent, the Liberty followed at a distance, watching to make sure it kept its course. The destroyers and cruisers held position, their presence a reminder that any change in direction would be answered quickly. Hours later, the alien ship crossed the border and kept going, disappearing into the black. The crew of the Liberty watched. It vanished from their screens. Monroe spoke softly. Think they'll be back? Daniel shook his head. Not soon. They'll tell their people what happened, and those people will remember. Daniel knew this calm was fragile. Somewhere out there, others might be watching. Others might think the stories about human space were only myths. If they did, they would learn the same lesson. The boarding had been a small part of the battle, but it was the part that would echo far beyond the wreckage. It was the moment when the message was sent not just to the survivors, but to anyone who might hear their tale. Asterisk, the Liberty held position near the border, its systems running at quiet standby. The battle was over, but the crew stayed alert. The alien ship was gone now, heading into deep space. Every person on the bridge knew it would carry the memory of what had happened. Captain Daniel Brooks sat in his chair, watching the faint trail of heat left by the retreating vessel on the sensors. It was barely visible now, just a fading mark against the cold darkness. He thought about the datapad the Marines had left on the alien bridge. He wondered how many of the alien leaders would see it, and how they would react when they read the message. Sarah Monroe broke the silence. Fleet Command says our orders are to hold this position for 72 hours. They want to be certain there are no more intruders following. Daniel nodded. Makes sense. If this was just a scout group, the main force might still be out there. Jason Cole leaned back in his seat. I doubt they'll send more ships. Not after what happened here. Don't assume, Daniel said. Fear fades, pride doesn't. The bridge settled into the quiet rhythm of monitoring space. Outside, the wreckage of the destroyed alien ships still floated slowly. Small recovery drones moved among the fragments, collecting samples for analysis. Some pieces would go to fleet intelligence. Others would be destroyed to prevent anyone from salvaging useful parts. Hours passed, the crew rotated shifts, but Daniel stayed on the bridge. He knew the first hours after a battle could be the most dangerous. He also knew the importance of appearances. If the aliens had any hidden eyes watching from a distance, they would see a human ship, waiting, patient, and ready. In the mess hall, the crew spoke in low voices about the fight. Many had seen battles before, but few had seen such a decisive and sudden end. The defense grid had worked exactly as intended, and the alien fleet had never stood a chance once it crossed the line. Fleet Command sent a short update to all ships in the sector. The message was clear. Human space was secure, and the unspoken rule had been upheld once again. Across the network, other captains acknowledged the report. The tone was professional, but Daniel could sense the pride behind the words. Late in the first night, a single signal appeared on the long-range scanners. It was faint and moving away too far to pose a threat. Monroe ran the data twice before speaking. It's the survivor, she said, still moving at steady speed. No signs of distress. No transmissions. Daniel studied the reading for a moment. They're keeping silent. That's good. Silence means they're thinking. Jason Cole frowned. Thinking about revenge. Maybe, Daniel said. Or maybe about how close they came to being erased. Either way, they'll talk to their people. The second day was calmer. The crew repaired minor damage to the Liberty shields and replaced a few scorched panels on the hull. The engineering team moved with practiced efficiency, working in silence. Outside, the defense platforms returned to their hidden positions, vanishing from sight until they were needed again. Daniel took a moment to walk the corridors, speaking briefly with the crew. He thanked them for their work, for staying focused. He knew they had done more than just fight. They had shown discipline, and discipline was what gave humans their edge. That evening, Fleet Intelligence sent a secure message. Analysis of the alien wreckage showed technology unlike any in current records. The materials were advanced, but the design suggested a culture that valued speed and aggressive tactics over defense. It confirmed what Daniel had suspected: they had come ready to strike. Not to negotiate, the final day of the watch came quietly. No new signals appeared. The wreckage had been cleared, the defense grid reset, and the civilian traffic lanes reopened. Life in the sector began to return to normal. Before the Liberty received orders to stand down, Fleet Command sent one more transmission. Message successfully delivered. Subject vessel has exited human territory. No pursuit detected. Monroe smiled faintly when she read it. Looks like they're gone for good. Daniel didn't smile. For now, but word will spread. Not just among their people, but everywhere. And someone, somewhere, will test the border again. He returned to the viewport and looked out at the stars. They were calm and bright, as if nothing had happened here. But the crew of the Liberty knew the truth. They had been part of a story that would travel fair across trade routes. Through quiet talks in alien halls, whispered in the corridors of foreign fleets. The story would be simple. No one enters human space uninvited, unless they don't plan. To come back, the Liberty's mission for the moment was over, but the message would outlast them all. Asterisk. Weeks passed after the battle, and the border of human space was quiet again. The Liberty returned to its patrol route, moving through calm starfields and visiting quiet outposts. Captain Daniel Brooks carried out his duties as always, but part of him stayed fixed on the memory of the alien fleet and the single ship that had escaped. Reports from fleet intelligence said the survivor had traveled far into unknown space. No signals had been intercepted. No new sightings had been made. Either the aliens had gone into hiding, or they had decided to keep silent. To Daniel, either outcome was acceptable. Silence meant they were thinking, and thinking meant they remembered. Meridian Station, the place that had been their likely target, had returned to its normal life. Merchants filled the docking bays again. Children ran through the market halls, and civilian ships came and went in steady streams. Few people there spoke openly about the near attack, but Daniel knew the station's leadership would not forget it. They had seen how close danger had come. Other captains in the fleet sent Daniel private messages. Some offered congratulations, others asked for details of the fight. All of them understood that the battle had not just been about stopping one. Fleet Heat had been about showing the galaxy that the unspoken rule still stood. Jason Cole noticed the change in their patrols. Everything feels calmer, he said, one evening on the bridge. It's like the neighbors are keeping their distance. Daniel glanced at the navigation display. They are. That's what a clear message does. Sarah Monroe added, theirs. Been a drop in unidentified contacts along the border. Traffic is following proper entry procedures more than usual. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. Fear is the best paperwork. But not everyone was certain the calm would last. In quiet meetings with his senior officers, Daniel reminded them that history had a way of repeating itself. Someone will test us again, he said. Maybe not this year, maybe not for 10 years, but they will come. Life aboard the Liberty returned to its usual pace. The crew ran drills, kept the ship in shape, and handled routine inspections. Small encounters with traders and allied fleets filled the days, but nothing stirred the tension they had felt during the battle. Yet Daniel knew that peace in space was never permanent. One night, Daniel stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The quiet hum of the ship's systems surrounded him. The battle seemed far away now, but he could still see the flashes of light. The sudden destruction of the alien ships and the drifting survivor slipping into the darkness. He wondered if that captain still thought about what had happened. Fleet Command sent occasional updates confirming no further contact with the intruding species. They did not know the alien name for themselves or their reason for entering human space. The only fact that mattered was that they had come without permission and had been driven out in the wider galaxy. Rumors spread. Traders spoke of a fleet wiped out in minutes of hidden human weapons that could strike from anywhere. Some exaggerated the numbers, claiming hundreds of ships had been destroyed. Others whispered that humans had developed a new kind of weapon that no shield could stop. Daniel didn't correct them. Myths had their uses. At one outer station, a merchant from another sector approached Monroe during shore leave. He asked if the stories were true that humans would destroy any ship that entered without permission. She told him only, "You don't want to find out." The merchant had nodded quickly and walked away. By the fourth week, the Liberty was back near the border where the battle had happened. There was no sign of the wreckage now. The debris had been cleared, the defense grid reset, and the empty space looked like any other patch of stars. Only those who had been there knew what had happened. Jason Cole looked out at the view from the bridge. "Hard to believe it happened right here," Daniel replied. "That's the point. Space forgets fast. People remember longer. And the ones who need to remember will." The quiet watch continued. The Liberty's crew stayed sharp, knowing the next challenge could appear without warning. For now, though, the border was silent. And in human space. Silence was not just peace, was a warning to anyone who might be listening. Months passed, and human space remained quiet. The Liberty continued its patrols, moving between stations and border checkpoints. The crew grew, used to the steady pace, but Captain Daniel Brooks never let the routine dull his attention. He knew the galaxy was wide, and somewhere, another fleet might be planning to cross the line. News from Fleet Command spoke of growing trade with friendly species, new exploration routes, and the building of more defense platforms along the borders. The story of the battle had spread far, reaching even the most distant stations. Merchants and travelers now spoke carefully about human territory, always with respect and sometimes with a trace of fear. One evening, during a quiet shift, Sarah Monroe received a signal from a deep-range probe. It was not an alarm only, a faint reading of movement in a distant sector, far beyond human borders. She studied it for a while before speaking. "Probably just a merchant ship," Jason Cole said when he saw the reading. "Probably," Daniel replied, "but we still watch." The signal faded after a few hours, leaving no trace. Still, it reminded Daniel that threats could appear at any time without warning. Life aboard the Liberty was steady. The crew rotated through drills, maintenance, and short leaves at nearby stations. Relationships formed, small celebrations marked personal milestones, and the hum of the ship became a familiar comfort. Yet in every quiet moment, there was an awareness that their peace was protected by readiness. During a patrol near a small mining colony, Daniel met with the colony's governor. She thanked him for the fleet's work, saying the miners slept easier, knowing the borders were guarded. Daniel accepted the thanks, but said, "It's not about sleeping easier. It's about being ready when no one else is." As the months turned to a year, the Liberty received orders to rotate out of the sector for refit and crew rest. Another ship would take their place, but the defense grid would remain active, unseen, until needed. On their final pass along the border, Daniel took extra time to look out at the stars where the battle had happened. It looked as calm as the day before the fight. Jason Cole joined him at the viewport. "Feels strange to leave it behind." Daniel nodded. "It's never really behind us. Every crew that takes our place will carry the same duty." On their last night in the sector, Fleet Command sent a secure message to all captains. No further incursions from the unknown species had been detected. Intelligence believed the survivors had warned their people to stay away. Whether from fear or caution, they had not returned. The Liberty turned toward the inner systems. The journey back was calm, with no urgent calls or distress signals. 4. The first time in many months, the crew could relax. Still, the knowledge of what they had faced stayed with them. When they reached Fleet Base Orion, the ship went into dry dock for maintenance. Crews worked on the hull, replaced worn parts, and updated systems. The crew went on leave, scattering to different worlds and stations. But even in rest, the story traveled with them. They told friends and families about the day the alien fleet came and how it was driven away. Some told the story with pride, others with quiet reflection. But the message was always the same. No one entered human space uninvited and left unharmed. Months later, Daniel returned to duty, assigned to a new ship in another sector. One night, while reviewing patrol reports, he saw a mention of a distant contact in unclaimed space. The report ended with a note: "Contact changed course, entered another corridor away from human borders." Daniel sat back in his chair, thinking of the liberty of Monroe and Cole, and of the battle that had sent a message strong enough to turn ships away before they even reached the line. The galaxy was full of unknown dangers. But humanity had made its position clear. They did not seek war, but they would not run from it. And any who came without permission had to understand the cost. Somewhere out there, the survivors of that first battle still lived, carrying the memory of the day they crossed into human space and learned the unspoken law. Daniel knew the memory would fade for them eventually, but for humans, it would not. It was written into their duty, their history, and their will to survive. In the dark silence of space, the borders of human territory remained unseen, but never unguarded. The defense grid waited, hidden and ready, and the warning that had been sent once would be sent again, without hesitation. For in human space, the rule had never changed. No one entered without invitation unless they did not plan to come back. Asterisk.